All right, Shalom. First and foremost, like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Wakar Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and His unbegotten Son Ba'Shem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew of the Lashma Gadash tongue, and I say Barak Thumb to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwaf, and I say Shalom, and this is a sit-down lesson of the prophecy updates as of December the 18th, 2025, on this Thursday morning, and this is from RT.com as of December 18th, 2025, from World News from RT.com. It reads, as we've been seeing, recently on and off, back and forth, throughout the years, and recently, especially, down there in the South China Sea, and over there in the Taiwan Island, and over there in the Mediterranean Sea, over there in the immediate red line in the Taiwan Strait and Taiwan Sea, tensions have been heating up between China and Taiwan, as Beijing been sending those warnings twice, between Taiwan, because they telling them they playing with fire, sending warnings consistently, twice so far this year. So that shows that the tensions, that's a sign, an indicator right there that the tensions are really heating up between Taiwan and China. So keep that in mind as well too. I just want to add a side note to that. It says U.S. must immediately stop arms sales to Taiwan, China reports. Washington has approved its largest ever package for financing weapons for the islands, over $11 billion. It says China has condemned the United States' decisions to approve a record $11.1 billion weapon sales to Taiwan on Thursday, urging Washington to immediately stop the arms the island. That's not going to happen. It says the warning allows the Department of War greenlighting a massive package of advanced weaponry for Taiwan, China, which views this self-governed island as part of its territory. Not anymore. Because you had, the president of Taiwan saying they're not interested of being part of China. So that's why they separated and had their own island, I believe, ever since 1949. It says a self-governed island as part of its territory, call it a move of a dangerous act and a fragmentation of its sovereignty. China urged the United States to abide by the One China principle and immediately stop its dangerous actions of arming Taiwan. It says Foreign Minister spokesman Joel Jakim told Jalakim, if I pronounced the name right, told the reporters on Thursday. It says announced on Thursday that they are still awaiting U.S. Congress approval, which most likely is going to be approved. The package will be the second arms sale since President Trump returned to office on January after a $330 million deal in November for part of components. The deal spans 8 separatist purchases, including the sales of the 82H HIMARS rocket system and the 420 Atism missiles valued at more than $4 billion in the anti-tank and anti-armor missiles, loitering munitions, and Howitzers, military software, and spare parts, according to details released by both governments. It says urged by Washington, Taiwan has stepped up arms purchases in recent years, while the U.S. officials adheres to the One China policy. It has continued to supply arms to the island and maintain ties with the governments of Taipei. China says it seeks a peaceful reunification. That's not going to happen peacefully. That's not going to happen. As I repeated once again, you had the president of Taiwan saying they're not interested in no reunification with China. It says, but it has repeatedly warned it will use force. Most likely that's going to happen. They're going to use force. And then the United States is going to have to step in and help them out. It says, has warned it will use force if Taiwan formally declares independence. Most likely they're going to do that. It says, Taiwan has been self-ruled since 1949. It says, when the nationalist forces retreat there after losing the Chinese Civil War, although several countries formally recognize the island, most of the international communities, include Russia, abide by Beijing's One China policy. And this is, yep. Matthew 24, verse 6. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, so that's wars and rumors of wars that we're hearing on a daily basis. Tension between China and Taiwan. That's a prime example of wars and rumors of wars. And then China versus the United States from an economical perspective, from a trade war perspective, and a military perspective. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See, that should be no trouble, for all these things must first come to pass, but then it's not yet, right? So it's not going to end the yet, but it's going to come to pass. That Yahushua spoke about. So on a daily basis, we're going to be seeing an increase in building up of wars and rumors of wars between the nuclear nations. Matthew 24, verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, right? China versus Taiwan, China versus the United States, Russia versus Ukraine, Iran versus the IDF. So these are what you call nation against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, which goes to ethnos. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places, right along with it. And this is the Gospel of Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars upon the earth. Disgressive nations will perplex sea birds roaring. Right, this is what Yahushua spoke about. It says there'll be great signs in the sun and the star and the moons, which we're seeing on a daily basis. It says, and on top of that, and upon the earth, disgressive nations. Right, so we see an uncertainty among the nations, dealing with the seditions, uprises, tensions between the nations. Right along, we're seeing the signs that we're seeing with the famines and pestilent plagues right along with it. So increased uncertainty among the nations. So we're going to be continue seeing that the disgressive nations will perplex the siege rage one. And this is the book of St. Mark. St. Mark. This is the Gospel of Mark 3 and verse 24. It says, and if a kingdom be divided, itself the kingdom not stand. Right, so even though it be up and down, back and forth, division between the nations, they might be cool with one another. And then you're going to still be seeing divisions and tensions between the nations and kingdoms, which we're seeing on a daily basis. Because, everything is balanced in the sight of Heavenly Father, Yahweh and His only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahushua. It says, St. Mark chapter 3, verse 24, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, a king cannot stand. Right, so Yahushua says, if a kingdom be divided against itself, the king cannot stand. St. Mark chapter 3, verse 25, it says, and if a house be divided against itself, the house cannot stand. Right, so if a house be divided against itself, the house cannot stand. Once again, Matthew 24 and verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There should be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. As it says again, U.S. must immediately stop arms sales to Taiwan, right? Because we've been seeing tensions been heating between China and Taiwan. It says the European Union pushing by European rules for arm Ukraine, Bloomberg reports. By tapping Russian assets frozen in a block, its members aim to boost their own defense industries while arming heavy. It says India signs a trade pact deal with Oman. U.S. strike another drug boat in Eastern Pacific. Right, so tensions definitely been stirring up between, the administration of Maduro and the president of Venezuela and versus the United States administrations of Donald Trump. So tensions are really heating up down there in Central and South America. It says a teenage girl detained in a Ukraine plot. Russian girl detained in a Ukrainian plot. Right. Tensions heating up between Russia and Ukraine. It says Trump issues an oil demand to Venezuela. Right, as I mentioned again, tensions heating up between Venezuela and the United States with this recent oil situation. And then I believe it was a news article. Trump he admitted it that this is really a oil war between the United States and Venezuela. So expect to see tensions only going to stir up between both of the nations of Venezuela of their armies and the United States of their armies, and President Trump versus Maduro. It says a Ukraine drone killed civilians in southern Russia. Right, so the tensions heating up between Russia and Ukraine, despite the fact they're trying to push forth a ceasefire deal, which they are open up to. It says Maduro responds to Trump threats. It says Venezuela's president has said Washington wants to impose a puppet government to plunder the country's resources. Right, because Maduro is not going to let that happen. It says the Venezuela president has said Washington wants to impose a puppet government to plunder the country's resources. It says Venezuela's president Nicolas Maduro has accused the U.S. of seeking to overthrow his government to turn his country into a colony, rejecting Washington's recent threats. An oil blockage as a diplomatic barbarism. Speaking in a televised address on Wednesday, Maduro said that the U.S. was attempting to impose a puppet government in Caracas, Caracas, if I pronounce that right, that would not last even 47 hours. He described the pressure campaign launched by the U.S. President Donald Trump as a warmonger and aims to seize Venezuela's in a nature wealth. Right, because you think about it, because Nero 47 blame everything on Joe Biden, call him Sleepy Joe and all that, call him a warmonger in the Clinton's administration and all that, call the Bidens and the Obamas warmonger. He doing the same thing as well too. that lets you know that's kind of hypocrisy right there. That's the hypocrisy of Esau Edom. The his words were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. That's Esau Edom for you. That's why he called it the Department of War. Esau, war was in his heart. That's Esau Edom, It says they want regime change in Venezuelans to impose a puppet government that would hand over the constitutional sovereignty and all our riches and run the country into a colony. Maduro said that's not going to happen, never. And I believe him on that. He said that's not going to happen. It says Maduro remarks follow Trump's announcement of a blockage sanctions. Oil tankers carry Venezuela's crude. Trump has branded the government in Caracas as a foreign bad organization and accuses of stealing U.S. oil and other assets. I don't think Venezuela stole no oil. Seems like the United States, they're trying to come in and steal their oil and their resources. You think about it. It says Venezuela is completely surrounded by the large Ramondo of ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like none they have ever seen before. Until such a time as they return to the United States of America. Oh, what's up, Jamaria? Good morning to you. Hope you having a good day at school today. It says the Venezuela's leader insists that the country's oil trade in Portugal will continue, arguing that the international law, that the UN Charter, Project Freedom of Navigation and Commerce. This is not the time for crusades and prophecy, Maduro said. It says Venezuela's wealth belongs exclusively to its people. Right, he is right about that. In evoking independency leader Simon Bolivar and the country's constitution, Maduro also warned that the United States escalations represent what he called the diplomacy and barbarism, contrasting and would a respect for international law and peace coexistence. Right, that's what you call unrighteous decrees. Isaiah 10 verse 1. It says Maduro says Venezuela has both the legal right and political strength to defend itself. Right, they do have a right to do that. Just like the United States have a right to defend themselves, other countries have a right to defend themselves as well too. It says in a regional appeal, he called on Colombia and its armed forces to reject foreign military interventions and uphold what it described as a Bolívar vengeance of unity. He vows that Venezuelans will defend its sovereignty with strength and with truth and with love for peace. This is Matthew 24 and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? Tensions between the president of Maduro of Venezuela and the tension between the Trump administration of Donald Trump. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? Tensions are heating up down in the Caribbean Sea, Central and South America, between the nations and armies. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must first come to pass, but the end is not yet. Matthew 24 verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, which goes to Ephesus, which I spoke about that already. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Matthew 24 and verse 8, these just the beginning of sorrows, right? So all these signs that Yahushua spoke about, these just the beginning of sorrows, just like the signs of times was taking place in ancient times. Now we're seeing it once again in modern day our times. And these are the signs that the Heavenly Father spoke about from the days before even from the beginning. That's in our second address, the 9th chapter. It says Kremlin weighs in on rising U.S.-Venezuelan tensions. So with that, this was just a quick prophecy update sit-down lesson as of December the 18th, 2025. So with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Makokodash, in the Heavenly Father, true names. In the Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Ba'Shem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, Lash Wakadash tongue. And I say Barak Thumb to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Akwaf. And until next time, I would say Shalom.